Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Financial Health, brought to you by John G. Ullman and Associates, joined again by Jason Nickerson, President and COO. And Jason, the election is now in the rear view. It is behind us, and a lot of people were wondering what sort of impact that the election might have on the markets, our savings, our investments, and especially the impact on the stock market as well. So now that the election is over, can you answer that question for us?
Sure. Actually, it's a question that we were getting even before the election, and it's very common, right? Is before, during, after the presidential election cycle, we are getting this question. And it doesn't matter who the candidates are or who the potential president might be. This question is often asked. And when answering this question, I have recently referred to an article that was posted on many of the major news outlets, written by a journalist, Christine Itzelis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's a long title. Stocks usually see double-digit gains under U.S. presidents, with two exceptions since 1933. So the title itself kind of gives a little bit of the answer, right? But let me give you some of the highlights. This article references a study done by Deutsche Bank Research, and it highlighted certain major events that were the exception to what that title suggests, right? But for the most part, the article goes on to talk about how it doesn't really matter who the president is, that the market has done well over the long term. Now, there's some of these major events that are contrary to that, things like the Great Depression, the dot-com bubble, global financial crisis from 2007 to 2009. But it talks about how these events and the culmination of contributing factors are largely outside the influence of the sitting president. So it appears that the data suggests we just need to continue to focus on and rely on the contributing economic factors to determine where our economy or the market might be heading. Now, what are those? And we've talked about some of these in past episodes. Inflation being down from the highs of 2022, slightly increasing unemployment, and probably the most important one recently is the Fed's recent pivot in their interest rate policy. And what we saw recently is that with their first rate cut was 0.5%, and just a few weeks ago we got another quarter point. The expectation is that these smaller rate adjustments down will continue through the end of the year. Now, these interest rate adjustments downward in these pivots are usually applauded by the market. It's usually less restrictive to the economy. However, if rate cuts continue, it can also be a signal that the economy is weakening overall. So we really kind of have to pay attention to that. There are obviously other certain policies that we won't get into that can stimulate the economy or be restrictive. Higher taxes, less spending by the government, those tend to be more restrictive to slow the economy down. More stimulus, lower tax rates tend to be more favorable to the economy to speed it back up. So I guess overall, the message I want to send is there's no certain specific data that's going to suggest that the market's going to do one thing or else. We just need to keep a long-term view of the market overall. And if you're putting money into the stock market, it really should be long-term, 5 years-ish or more.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a very thorough explanation. I know this has been, a very emotional time for people, and hopefully in regards to, the financial component, you've brought a little bit of calm and some guidance to our viewers.
That's right. The point here is have a plan, be flexible, not emotional, and just keep a long-term perspective when it comes to our investments.
All right. Well, Jason, we appreciate that insight. And for this week's Financial Health, we'll see you back here next week.
See you next week.